On getting there, the nurse was frightened by the condition she had seen Kunle at. His skin was peeled and his shirt soaked with blood. Kunle was excited. He was finally going to be a big boy. He had just finished his primary school and passed the entrance exams to Best International School. Kunle was filled with pride, as well as his parents. Best International School, as the name suggests, was one of the best schools in the country. The high and mighty all vied to send their kids to school there. The school entrance exams was incredibly difficult to pass, and hence it wasn't easy getting admitted aside their ultra expensive fees. Kunle was the last born and only son among 4 children. He was an extremely intelligent child. In fact, he was a genius. His father, Chief Olufemi, was a very rich businessman. He owned multiple businesses around the country, his most successful being his car dealership, which had branches across the continent. Olufemi was from a poor background and an illiterate. Even with his great wealth, he often regretted not being properly educated, as some of his peers make a reason to stigmatize and exclude him from various important circles and events. Chief Olufemi was the most happy about Kunle's admission to Best International School, as this would help widen his connection to other wealthy and powerful people in the country through parent meetings and friends his sons will make. Chief Olufemi bragged and told everyone who cared to listen about his new accomplishments from his son. After much prepping, the time had finally come for Kunle to resume at the school. Kunle was so excited and couldn't wait. His father had told him that getting admission into the prestigious school would make him grow from a little boy to a big boy, which was his dream, as he was sick of being called a baby by his sisters. His father, mother, and 3 sisters decided to escort Kunle to the school on the resumption day. After dropping off his bags and every other thing, Kunle's mother, although happy that her son was going to be attending this incredible school, wasn't too pleased he would be a boarding student. She had heard all sorts of rumors about intimidation and bullying going on in boarding house. She was scared that Kunle would become fresh meat for the vultures once he stepped foot into the school. Her Precious was of a gentle and calm disposition. Kunle was so calm and gentle. Some people even went as far as to refer to him as feminine. As Kunle hugged his mother one final time before going into his hostel, she looked lovingly into his eyes and said in a gentle voice, "Kunle, my baby." "I am big now, mommy," Kunle interrupted with a hint of annoyance and embarrassment. Smiling, she corrected herself, "My big boy. Remember what I told you. If anything happens, anything at all, make sure to tell me, okay? Don't hide anything from me," she implored. Kunle nodded at her. While his father seemed a little irritated by the display, he had often blamed her for the feminine nature of their son. Rolling his eyes, he beckoned Kunle over. "My big strong boy," he said proudly, holding on to his shoulders. "Don't forget what I told you. You're a man, and you must be strong and bold. Don't start crying and hiding at little inconveniences. Don't back down during an argument. Always hold your head high and speak your mind without fear. Remember, you're soon going to be the man of this house, and so you must be strong and courageous. Okay?" "Okay, Daddy," Kunle replied with a smile. Finally, the time had come, and so Kunle walked into the hostel, waving his father one final goodbye. As Chief Olufemi drove back home with his family, an argument broke out between him and his wife. The latter, not happy that her son was being sent to boarding school, the former argued that it was for his betterment. Kunle's mother expressed her dissatisfaction with this and spoke about the constant bad feeling she had about the situation. Her husband, Chief Olufemi, as usual, dismissed her worries. Meanwhile, back at the boarding school, Kunle had settled in. He was in a room with 5 other boys who were his classmates. The boarding house was luxurious, with all sorts of state-of-the-art technology. This especially made Kunle all the more excited as he had dreams of being an engineer. Kunle went to bed with a smile, excited for his first day at school. The day came and it was filled with all sorts of wonder for Kunle as he got familiar with the school surroundings and facilities. Kunle, remembering all his father's instructions, made sure to make as much friends as he could. Although he missed home, Kunle was enjoying his stay at the boarding school. Slowly, days turned into weeks and weeks into months. The midterm came and passed. Kunle returned to school excited for the remaining term. One morning, Kunle was dressed. Abdul, a senior of Kunle by one class, walked into the room as they dressed for school to collect a book from one of Kunle's classmates. On walking in, Abdul noticed and took interest in the wristwatch on Kunle's wrist. Abdul then went ahead and asked Kunle to lend him the watch, but Kunle refused. Kunle and everyone knew that whenever Abdul collects anything from anyone, he never returns it in one piece, and in most cases, he doesn't return it at all. Kunle wasn't ready to lose this watch because it was a gift from his mother, who bought it for him during their recent shopping abroad. His roommate kept giving him signals to let the watch go, but Kunle refused. He went ahead and told Abdul that he insisted on taking the watch, he report him to a teacher. With one last look at the watch, Abdul turned and walked out of the room. Though a bit scared, Kunle felt pride that he was able to defend his property. His roommates were not too pleased about the recent developments. For a whole week, Abdul kept pestering Kunle for the watch, but he maintained his stance on not giving it to him. Everything came to a standstill one evening when Abdul had cornered Kunle and his friends. He asked for the watch one more time, to which Kunle refused on letting go. Determined to get the watch, he tried grabbing it from Kunle's wrist with the help of his friends, but Kunle fought back hard. As his friends stood by and watched, too afraid to get involved, as the struggle went on, Kunle kicked Abdul where the sun doesn't shine, causing him to kneel in pain. He quickly went ahead and beat the other boy holding him slept. Soon after, he let go after he let out a stream of pain. The other friend let him go too, afraid that he would also get hurt. Kunle felt a surge of pride as he watched Abdul and his friends whimpering in pain. Abdul looked up at him with red eyes, promising him retribution as he walked away. Feeling courageous, Kunle told him to bring it on. As soon as Abdul left, his friends rushed up to him, now looking much more scared and worried. They pleaded with him to just let go of the watch. Kunle, angry that they had not defended him when Abdul and his friends attacked him, mocked them for being cowards and not real men. One of his friends then spoke up and told him that it wasn't Abdul that they were particularly afraid of, but his cousin Ahmed, who was the head boy and had a reputation of being extremely mean to those who offended him. Hearing this, Kunle scoffed and said he didn't care who Abdul was related to. He wouldn't back down, not to anyone, especially not greedy thieves like Abdul and his friends. After saying those words, his friends suddenly turned pale, as though they had seen a ghost. One of his friends shook his head, trying to give him signal, but Kunle just took it as being scared. He placed his arms on his shoulders and told him not to be scared of people like Abdul or Ahmed, who were just toothless dogs. They were all bark and no bite. Suddenly, there was laughter coming from behind Kunle, who turned in shock to see Abdul, his friends, and his cousin, the head boy Ahmed, who had been laughing, looked at Kunle and asked him to repeat the words he had just spoken. Kunle was beginning to feel scared, but remembering the words his father had spoken to him, he decided to be brave, and so he repeated what he had just said to Ahmed's face. Kunle's friends looked as though they were about to faint. They couldn't believe he had the guts to repeat such words to the face of Ahmed. Ahmed, being silent after hearing Kunle's words, gave him a resounding slap, and then another, and another, and another. He held onto Kunle by his collar and kept going until Kunle's mouth began to bleed. Kunle struggled and struggled, but to no avail. Tears began flowing from his eyes with each slap on his face. Kunle was determined to be courageous, but as his father had taught him. Feeling satisfied with Kunle's bleeding mouth and swollen eyes, Ahmed finally let him go and told him that he should write a sincere apology to both him and his cousin Abdul and present it to them in the evening alongside the watch. After Ahmed left, Kunle's friends helped him to the sick bay. On their way there, they advised Kunle not to tell the nurse what has happened and to simply comply with Ahmed's request and hand over the watch alongside an apology letter. Kunle remained silent, sniffing and whimpering in pain. As soon as they got to the sick bay, the nurse rushed over to him, asking what has happened. Kunle tearfully revealed that it has been Ahmed that had slapped him, disregarding what his friends had told him. Alarmed by what she heard, she immediately reported to the headmaster, who summoned Ahmed and questioned him about Kunle's injuries. After Kunle received some treatments, the housemaster summoned Kunle to his office where Ahmed was already seated. He asked Kunle to explain what had happened, to which he did. Kunle had expected that the housemaster would punish Ahmed, but instead he had asked Kunle to let it go, and it was just a misunderstanding. Kunle was disappointed with the results, but he was glad everything had been resolved. Kunle got back to the hostel and took the drugs prescribed to him after dinner. Shortly after, he went to bed. Kunle had no idea what time or how long he had slept, but he was awoken by the cold feeling of water being poured on him. Startled, he stood up to see some seniors surrounding him, with one with a bucket of water. The moment he woke up, he was dragged out by the boys, who took him to the back of the hostel. There, he was made to kneel in front of Ahmed, surrounded by the boys in the hostel. Ahmed announced that he was going to make an example of Kunle, and it has been a while, and so it seems everyone has forgotten their place. Hearing this, the boys mumbled in disagreement. Kunle knelt, confused by what is going on. He felt a sudden fear. Kunle tried once more to be courageous and spoke up. He reminded Ahmed that the headmaster had settled everything, so there was no need to revisit it. He had also told him that he wouldn't report him if they just let him go. Hearing this, Ahmed and his friends busted out laughing. Everyone fell silent. After Ahmed's laughter had died down, he turned to one of the boys standing beside him, who brought out tie from his pockets and walked towards Kunle, who was kneeling down. As he stood in front of him, two boys walked beside him, picked him up. While the boy tied his mouth, a table was then set in the middle where Kunle was tied on. At this point, Kunle knew he was in trouble. He couldn't move and he couldn't talk. Just then, Kunle felt an excruciating pain from a lash. He felt dizzy. Panting, he started wiggling, trying to free himself as more lashes fell on him. Kunle screamed with all his might, but he knew no one could hear him. He was going mad from the pain. The lashes went on to the point where Kunle felt his skin peel. At this point, the level of pain he felt had heightened. Shortly after, Kunle passed out from pain. When Ahmed noticed that Kunle was no longer wiggling, the lashing stopped. The boy who had been lashing Kunle looked at Ahmed, unsure of what to do next and scared that Kunle had passed on, then quickly checked his pulse and rushed him to the sick bay. On getting there, the nurse was frightened by the condition she had seen Kunle at. His skin was peeled and his shirt soaked with blood. She quickly went to work to treat his skin and revive him. After Kunle woke up, he cried out from extreme pain and requested that he speak with his mom. The nurse applied treatments to his wounds. Feeling sorry for him, she gave him a phone to call his mother. The next morning, Kunle's mother arrived at school with police officers. She was distraught and angry. She felt even more angry when she saw the condition of her son. Kunle's mother created a scene in the school compound, insisting that Ahmed be arrested. Soon after, Kunle's dad, who has been away for business in another state, arrived at the school ground to the drama that was unfolding. Ahmed's father also arrived at the scene. The school had called for an emergency meeting between both parents in a bid to calm the situation. At the meeting, Chief Olufemi, Kunle's father, discovered that Ahmed's father was the Assistant Controller General of the Customs, and recently he has been experiencing some issues with the Customs, who has seized his latest imports, which was affecting his business. Realizing that this could be an opportunity to resolve rather than escalate his business issues, and so interrupting his wife, who had been insisting on the arrest of Ahmed for the state he had put their son in, he asked that he speak with Ahmed's dad alone. After 30 minutes, Chief Olufemi and Ahmed's dad walked out of the principal's office. Chief Olufemi told his inquisitive wife that everything has been resolved and that they could go home with Kunle so he recovers. After getting home, Kunle's mother kept pestering her husband to tell her what he meant by resolved. She was hoping he had let things slide for the sake of his business, but tight-lipped Chief Olufemi maintained his earlier statement and made no further attempt to explain further. It was agreed with the school that Kunle will continue his classes and take his remaining tests and exams for the term online, giving him time to recover fully. He was to resume the next term. Kunle's mother tried convincing Chief Olufemi to change Kunle's school, but he refused. The Christmas holidays came and passed, and finally it was time to resume once more. Gone was the initial joy Kunle had when he was about to resume the first term. Now all he did was cry and beg his father to let him change school, but it all fell on deaf ears. The night before Kunle's resumption, his dad came to his room. On getting there, his father told him that he wasn't sending him back to the school to be wicked to him, but to help him grow into a man. Chief Olufemi told his son that he went through worse during his own secondary school days. Though he was unable to finish his school, but those experiences sharpened him to become the man he is now. He told his son that it was a rite of passage for every man to go through and learn, and that the beating he had endured was his fault for not being smart and being courageous at the wrong time. He then cautioned his son, telling him that he didn't want to hear any report from his mother or school about this issue again, and that Kunle should man up and stop crying like a woman, especially around his mother. Hearing this, Kunle's tears stopped flowing. The next day, Kunle's mother seemed surprised at the sudden change of tone of her son, who assured her he was okay with being back to the school. Back at school, Kunle lived in fear and anxiety. He couldn't sleep well at night. Whenever he did, he dreamed of the beating he had received on his back. By the second week, Kunle was constantly complaining of headache, which was a result of his lack of sleep. By the third week, Kunle was beginning to relax. After a month of being at school, Kunle was awoken on a Wednesday night by Ahmed's friends. Kunle's heart skipped a beat, and dread filled him, and he was once again taken to the back of the hostel, where again he found himself on his knees. Before Ahmed could speak, Kunle apologized for his past behavior. Hearing this, Ahmed and his gang busted into laughter, mocking his previous bravado. "Oh, so now you apologize? Unfortunately for you, it's too late. Because of your shenanigans, I spent the Christmas break at home, alone while my family all flew to Switzerland," he said as he let out a bitter laughter. Kunle began shaking, crying, and apologizing profusely to Ahmed. "Shh," Ahmed began. "Did I beat you?" Ahmed asked. Kunle replied with a shake of his head. "Then why are you crying?" he asked. "Don't worry, I won't beat you. But for ruining my holiday, you will serve punishment for the rest of the term. As long as you obey me and carry out the punishments, no one will touch you, and your life here will go smoothly. Understand?" Yes, I understand," Kunle replied shakily. "Good," Ahmed affirmed. "Your punishment starts tonight," Ahmed announced. "You are to kneel here for the whole night. If I or anyone at any point in the night come out to see you are slacking or asleep, the beating you will receive will be worse than the last time," he warned. Eager to please Ahmed, he nodded, feeling glad that he had not been given a worse punishment. He soon realized that the punishment was not as easy as it seemed. At some point, it seemed as though the day was refusing to break. That night was the longest night of his life. At some point, Kunle started singing, wishing he had been flogged. At least that would have been over by now. He fought through sleep and exhaustion, his body shaking as tears flowed uncontrollably from his eyes. Finally, the day broke. One of Ahmed's friends came to call him in. For over 5 minutes, Kunle struggled with getting up. His legs felt numb. His friends eventually came to his aid, helping him into their room. Kunle collapsed on the bed, exhausted, but he knew he needed to muster strength to get on with his day, with raising suspicion and questions. Every movement Kunle made was filled with pain. He fought hard against sleep during his lectures, but lost at certain times. His friends tried their best to cover up for him. He spent his break time sleeping. That evening, during dinner, Kunle wondered how he would get through the remaining days of the term. Again, that night, Ahmed called him for his punishment to kneel till daybreak again. This continued for the whole week. Kunle, as much as tried, could no longer stop himself from sleeping during classes. His teachers noticed he always looked exhausted, had dark circles around his eyes, and was always sleeping at class. When questioned, Kunle lied that he has been having nightmares and hence found it difficult to sleep. He was then questioned to see the counselor and the school nurse, who gave him some medication to help him sleep at night, but of course, he didn't take it. The 8th day since he began serving punishment came. That night, Kunle waited for someone to call him to come serve the punishment as usual, but when he noticed no one was coming, Kunle let himself into a deep slumber. On the 9th day, he was called as usual, but a different punishment was given. This time, Kunle was asked to squat till daybreak. Tearfully, Kunle begged Ahmed to give him a different punishment, but Ahmed insisted that Kunle carry out the punishment he had given him, else he would beat him to death. Kunle had no idea how he went through the night, but all he knew was that his legs couldn't feel like they were part of his body. He could hardly walk, but he tried with the help of his friends to get through the day. On the 11th day, Kunle went to the sick bay. He had asked her to give him a sick leave so he could rest. She could tell that he was being bullied, but he refused to speak about it. Feeling pity, she let him rest. And so he continued. On the 13th day, Ahmed would let him rest, and on the 15th day, he would give him a fresh punishment. Kunle's teachers noticed he had begun losing weight and was beginning to look sickly. When they tried to probe him, he kept silent. 5 days to the day the school would go on midterm break, Kunle's body could no longer bear the punishment and he fainted. The nurse at the sick bay, on hearing this current condition, could no longer keep quiet, so she reported to the headmaster, and the condition of the boy wasn't normal, and she suspects he's still being bullied. After explaining her observations to the headmaster, alongside the complaints from teachers about the drastic drop in his grades and appearances, the headmaster summoned Ahmed and Kunle to his office. He tells Kunle that there has been a report of him being bullied. This fills Kunle with dread and fervently denies it, claiming it wasn't true and he's perfectly fine. The headmaster then dismisses the issue, to the disappointment of the nurse and a few concerned teachers. Since they'll be going on midterm soon, the headmaster gave permission for Kunle to not attend classes so he could rest and recover from whatever was bothering him. He also queried Kunle for his failing grades, threatening to expel him if this grades doesn't go back up. Kunle promised to get everything back in order. On getting back to the hostel, Kunle rushes over to Ahmed's room to apologize and plead with him, telling him that he hadn't been the one who reported him. Ahmed ignored him, so his friends told Kunle to go back to his room and that when Ahmed is ready, he will speak to Kunle. Scared of what Ahmed may do to him in the coming weeks, Kunle has sleepless nights. He prayed for a miracle of some sort to save him. Kunle rests at the hostel while anticipating what Ahmed would tell him. Classes were cancelled on Friday, so students could pack up their stuff to go back home for the midterm. When Kunle and his friends were clearing up their lockers, one of Ahmed's friends came to call him. Kunle's heart skipped, but he decided to be brave once more since he's going home the next day. On getting to Ahmed, he noticed him standing in front of his empty locker thoughtfully, and then he spoke. "I have thought about everything that has happened, and I believe that you hadn't reported me. You have been very obedient these past few weeks, and so I have decided to show you mercy." Hearing this, Kunle let out a breath of relief and thanked him gratefully. Finally, Saturday came. It was time for all to go home. Parents came each second to pick their children. Everyone was excited to go home. Chief Olufemi came with his wife, who has insisted to come for the pickup. She had been restless throughout the night and couldn't wait to see her son. On getting there, they informed the housemaster they had come to pick up Kunle, who then sent a student to call him. After 15 minutes of waiting, the student came back claiming that Kunle was nowhere to be found in the hostel. Hearing this, Chief Olufemi, his wife, and the housemaster were alarmed. The housemaster decided to go search for Kunle himself. Chief Olufemi's wife insisted on accompanying him. They searched and thoroughly checked the rooms, but there was no sight of him. The headmaster then called the students still left in the hostel and threatened that no one would be allowed to go home until they told them where Kunle has disappeared to. After 30 minutes of threatening and grilling them, some of the parents that came to pick their kids weren't allowed to leave until the issue was resolved. This, of course, caused unrest amongst the students and parents. After an hour had passed and Kunle hadn't still been found, one of Kunle's classmates came forward to speak to the headmaster. He told him that Kunle hadn't been seen since Ahmed asked him to stay in his locker. Dread filled Chief Olufemi, his wife, and the headmaster. They quickly rushed to the locker room. It was filled with a terrible stench, and Chief Olufemi's wife prayed that it wasn't what she thought had happened. They soon located Ahmed's locker and discovered that the stench had been emitting from it. A security guard came to help them break the locker. On opening the locker, Kunle's dead body was found, crammed up in an uncomfortable and awkward position. Chief Olufemi's wife fainted. After further investigation, the whole ordeal was revealed. On the last day he was seen alive, Ahmed had promised Kunle to forgive and waive off his offense if he had stayed in the locker without making a sound until he had come to free him. This had happened shortly after breakfast, which was sometime around 11 a.m. Friday morning. Chief Olufemi's wife went mentally unstable for a short period of 6 months due to the trauma of seeing her son in such manner. Ahmed was never punished, as his father quickly sent him abroad while threatening to destroy Chief Olufemi's business and arresting him with the claims of importing contraband and drugs. Hearing this, Chief Olufemi had no choice but to concede to him. He lived the rest of his life in guilt. After his wife got better, she filed for divorce as she couldn't live with him anymore. Seeing him daily reminded her of complacency in the death of their son. The nurse resigned from the school. A lot of teachers, the headmaster, were fired for turning a blind eye to coolness, suffering, and their complacency, which led to his death. Thank you so much for tuning into Bejen's Folktales. I hope you enjoyed this story, even though it's a sad one. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment.